In this edition of the Parliament Report, where is the fuel? PAC queries use of petrol in waiver deal. Stunning admission by Prime Minister Golding. And a controversial MP resigns. The Auditor General's Department, the AGD, is reporting that it has found no evidence to show that 1.6 million litres of fuel imported between May and July 2009 has been used on the North Coast Highway project. This comes against the background of a waiver granted for the importation of 2 million litres. The contractor for the project received discretionary waivers valued at $34.7 million from the Ministry of Finance to import the fuel over the 3-month period. However, the AGD has indicated that it has no evidence to show that 1.6 million litres were used over the period. This was disclosed during the sitting of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, the PAC, on March 8. The AGD's concerns were documented in its 2010 annual report, and the department was not alone in pointing to the issue that raised eyebrows during the PAC meeting in Gordon House. Financial Secretary Dr. Wesley Hughes also had concerns about the waiver. Dr. Hughes said, "I too expressed some deep concern prior to the audit on this issue because we saw some waivers come in and we were deeply concerned." Dr. Hughes appeared before the committee as agencies under the Ministry of Finance had been summoned. Auditor General Pamela Monroe-Ellis said she had only seen delivery notes signed by the contractor indicating that he received 339,000 litres of fuel. She told the committee that under the terms of the waiver, the National Works Agency, the NWA, had responsibility to monitor the use of the fuel. Senior Director of the agency, Earl Patterson, told the committee that it was not the agency's duty to monitor the use of the fuel. Monroe-Ellis hit back as she read a letter from the Finance Ministry which sets out the terms of the waiver. The letter states, "Approval has been granted on the condition that the National Works Agency, acting as the overseer of the project, establish an effective monitoring system to ensure that the usage of the items is in accordance with the guidelines and will prevent abuse." Commissioner of Customs Danville Walker vigorously defended what Auditor General Pamela Monroe-Ellis described as extraordinary overtime payments at Jamaica Customs. In one instance, a senior officer was paid $750,000 for 916 hours in overtime, spanning 31 days in July 2009 and 28 days in August 2009. Another officer's claim indicated that she worked continuously for 51.5 hours over the period June 12 to June 14, 2009. The Auditor General's Department, the AGD, in its annual report for 2010, also highlighted 39 instances in which officers worked in excess of 18 hours per day. The unusual overtime payments were picked up in an audit of customs conducted by the AGD. This stirred a lively debate during the PAC meeting on March 8 on the credibility of the periods of overtime worked. Committee Chairman Dr. Omar Davies wanted to know the maximum overtime a member of staff at Customs could work. Walker said there was no ceiling on overtime worked. He said there were customs officers who could make up to $250,000 a month in overtime payments. In defending the overtime, the Customs Commissioner said the AGD needed to understand more clearly the role of those particular officers who earned that overtime. He says the workers comprised the contraband enforcement team officers who were on stakeouts as well as other operations during the periods. Prime Minister Bruce Golding made a stunning revelation on March 8, admitting that he had been aware that members of his party were ineligible to sit in the House of Representatives. Golding told journalists at a press briefing on March 8 that his government would have collapsed if the members had been asked to resign en bloc. His pronouncements came in the wake of the resignation of controversial Southwest St. Catherine Member of Parliament Everald Warmington. Warmington had pledged allegiance to the United States and was a citizen of that country at the time of his nomination for the 2007 general election. Golding, who hosted the press briefing in the government's conference room in Parliament, said, "We have been aware of the status for some time, but you will appreciate Everald would be the fifth of 5. I don't need to spell it out that we could not have all 5 departing the House at the same time. You are aware of the arithmetic of the balance in Parliament. The Prime Minister said he could not have allowed all the MPs on the government side with dual citizenship to resign at once. Noting that Warmington was the only government member who had remained in breach of the Constitution as a result of his dual allegiance, the Prime Minister challenged the opposition to clean its house. He says the spotlight should now be turned on the opposite benches where there are at least 2 MPs whose eligibility to sit in the House is in question. South Central St. Catherine MP Sharon Hay Webster and West Hanover MP Ian Hales have been hauled before the courts by defeated JLP members who are seeking to have them disqualified from sitting in the House. Government MPs Darrell Vaz, Michael Stern, Gregory Mayer and Shahini Robinson have been ejected from the House by the courts. The MPs have been ousted from the House after the courts found that they had breached Section 40, subsection 2A of the Constitution. Constituents of Southwest St. Catherine will vote on April 4 for a Member of Parliament to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of the Jamaica Labour Party's JLP, Everald Warmington. In a letter to the Speaker of the House, Delroy Chuck, dated March 7, Warmington said he had resigned, noting that he had breached Section 40, subsection 2A of the Constitution. And Prime Minister Bruce Golding said Warmington, at the time of his nomination for the September 2007 general election, was an American citizen. This made him ineligible to sit in the House. Golding said Warmington would be nominated on March 16 to contest a seat for the JLP. The People's National Party has indicated that it will not contest the by-election. And that's it for this edition of the Parliament Report. Don't forget to leave your comments below. Until the next bulletin, I'm Edmond Campbell saying, walk good.